I haven't done anything about the Fitzgerald in quite some time, but I was laying in bed last night thinking about some of the details of it. The trials of the two captains of the McCain and the Fitz aren't going to be for a while, but I think it's very, very important to hone in on the data points, the very, very specific data points that we can show that clearly reveal this is not what they're telling us. Now, the biggest one is the 3 data points that show the Fitzgerald running along this submarine cable. Remember, the story is that the ship was just transiting point A to point B. It wasn't really doing anything other than just, moving to another area to conduct a mission somewhere else. The 3 data points I speak of are the course of the Fitzgerald was 190 degrees, and that just happens to correlate with the direction this cable travels. Point 2, the location where the collision occurred is exactly the same distance in the report as where this bend in the cable is. We've shown that in other videos. And data point 3 is that right before the collision, there was a discussion as to whether to turn to starboard or to turn to port. The 2 choices were 240 true to starboard or just rapid hard turn to port. I found that odd. That was the thing that was kind of making me scratch my head. Why was one option a very specific direction and the other option just generally turn left as fast as you can to get the hell out of the way? And why was that very specific direction, turn, not followed, that order not followed by the person at the helm? And that's in the report as well. And I'm just going to drag this pin over here just to show that there's your 240. And back here on the report, we'll show Fitzgerald continued on course 190, speed 20 knots, 0110. And down here, we've all seen this before. Here's our 2 choices. Officer of the deck ordered course to the right to course 240 true, but rescinded the order. It said the officer of the deck ordered an increased full speed and a rapid turn to port just generally. And then the order not being carried out. So there's 3 data points right there, very specifically, that blow this coincidence thing out of the water. Right there. Also, data points. This idea above that they had that no one was doing watchstanding duties on the starboard side. Let's see if I can find that. It says up here in the causes that they did not conduct watchstanding duties on, here we go. Watchstanders performing physical lookout duties did so only on Fitzgerald's left port side, not on the right starboard, where the 3 ships were present with the risk of collision. Yet, right down here, in their own report, it describes let me find it. Here it is, 0120. The watchstander responsible for immediate support to the officer of the deck, the junior officer of the deck, reported sighting Crystal visually and noted that Crystal's course would cross Fitzgerald's track. The officer of the deck continued to think that Crystal would pass at 1,500 yards. 0122, the junior officer of the deck sighted Crystal again. This shows people performing physical watchstanding duties on the starboard side. This report argues with its own information. It also says that the support officers in that on the bridge didn't do anything to take corrective action up there in the report. And it clearly shows that this junior officer of the deck did everything he could possibly do. He said, I mean, what can a junior officer of the deck, I mean, other than relieving the man in command? He recommended, in fact, it said that he recommended that they slow. Twice, the junior officer of the deck cited Crystal again and made the recommendation to slow. The officer of the deck responded that slowing would complicate the contact picture. So the guy not only was performing lookout duties on the starboard side, he also did everything he forcefully could do to take corrective action. But in the report, it says the exact opposite. So there's 5 data points that we only need 2 tabs to show. Also, when we look at the course, first thing that we see of this course of the crystal, and we've showed this up here in the data, up here in the timestamps, that the information we're getting is coming from a Class B transponder, all the way up until almost 3 a.m. And here's another data point. The press conference done by Admiral O'Coin was done almost 48 hours later. At that time, they would have clearly been able to interview the officers that were on board. They would have clearly had the information as to when the collision occurred, when general quarters was sounded, and who did what when. So they would have known at that time that general quarters wasn't sounded at 02:20 in the morning. They would have known at that time that general quarters was sounded at 0143. They would have known that, yet the Admiral went out and reported the time of the collision at 02:20 3 separate times in his press conference. And we've shown that in other videos. This is where the crystal was at 0143 when they were sounding, allegedly, general quarters aboard the Fitz. So that's another data point. The idea that both of these vessels would have independently of each other, not being anywhere near each other at 0220, have simultaneously each made cell phone calls to 2 different authorities at exactly the same time, 50 minutes after the collision, is beyond plausible. It's absolutely beyond plausible that that would occur identically that way. Yet that is what is reported by the Navy, that they received a call at 0220 hours to Desron from someone aboard the Fitzgerald on a personal cell call. Simultaneously, the Japanese Coast Guard reported having received a phone call from someone aboard the Crystal at 0220 hours. And then what we see here in the data is that the reporting rate of the ACX Crystal changes from 5 seconds to 10 seconds, ever so coincidentally at the exact same time. A gentleman back in Maryland reports receiving and missing a phone call from his son, one of the men that died. That very clearly sums up, that's all the data points you need to know that clearly someone is lying. Someone is not telling you the whole story. And if no one were on trial for this, and no one had lost their life for this, and no one had denigrated the Navy and issued a 72-page report stating that our Navy can't operate a rowboat across a mud puddle, I probably would like, well, strange, but such is life. But that's not the case, is it? We've seen now a dramatic drawdown in the region, a withdrawal from the region. We haven't heard of any destroyers doing any freedom of navigation operations in the South China Sea. We've seen the Navy talk about completely changing the way they do training, wanting 2 different training centers a Pacific and an Atlantic one. And we've got two guys that have a very good chance that they might end up in jail their careers are already ruined. All based on provable, to basic common sense and any basic 101 investigative person would know, that someone is lying. So I just wanted to do a quick update on this just to keep everybody refreshed on the data points. In case anyone is deciding that, well, maybe we're just going to go ahead and believe the Navy and move forward. That we're, in a couple of months, going to have a couple of men that might be looking at time in jail for a lie. And that shouldn't stand. Like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.